That's 298-5487. 298-KHTS.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
I listen to it all day, every day.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Hey there, I'm Tori with your hometown station weather. Mostly sunny skies this week with highs in the mid-90s. Overnight lows in the mid-60s. Save the date for the SCV Chamber Latino Business Alliance Gala, Saturday, September 8th at 6 p.m. at the Newhall Family Theater for the Performing Arts. For more information, go to scvchamber.com. And for all things Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com.
Good afternoon, Santa Clarita, and everyone listening in from around the world. You are right here at KHTS, your hometown station. My name is Sharon Brubaker, and I'm the host for your next hour. This is the Grief Recovery Hour with Sharon Brubaker. I'm an advanced certified grief recovery specialist. I have a great show set for you guys tonight. I'm so glad that you're joining in. We are Facebook Live, and this is absolutely my favorite part of the show because guests get to put questions in there. We will answer any of the questions that you put in the Facebook Live, or you can call in and we will answer questions there. Everything is confidential, just to let you know. If we don't get to your question during the show, we will go back in and answer them after the show. So thank you again, my friends, for joining. If you are listening to this program, there's a huge probability that your heart is broken. It could be from the death or divorce or the breakup of a romantic relationship. It could be from any of the other 40 known losses that we know a person can experience over a lifetime. It could be from a feeling that your life is just not as happy or fulfilling as you like it to be. Regardless of the cause of your broken heart, you know how it feels, and it probably isn't good. I'm not going to tell you how it feels, because I bet you already know that I know it hurts. And we're just here to answer some questions for you. I am doing something so exciting for my first time. I actually have my sister Erica Honore on the line. Hey, Erica, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
This is Erica Honore coming in live from Howell, Texas, which is about an hour outside of Dallas. Erica is my sister, and she is the mother of Austin Tyler Patton, 10 years old. He passed away in 2006. And Donovan Blake passed away in 2015. And today we're going to be talking about, Erica, we hear a lot of times people say, and I remember them saying this to us, you never get over the loss of a child. You never get over a loss of a child. Like, it's the absolute worst loss that you can experience. And so that's the title of our show today, is just talk about what is getting over, and is there such a thing? And if you guys know Erica's story, she lost both of her boys at 2 different times, about 10 years apart. And she and I are both grief recovery specialists, and we go around the world, we travel around the world helping other grievers with their broken heart. But Erica, what does that mean, you never get over a loss of a child? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think to me, it just is something that society has put out there, because prior to, support groups or grief recovery or other helpful methods out there, women really didn't have outlets or choices to help themselves. And so they would unfortunately just have to live with their broken hearts. And So I think that's kind of where that has come from, because, outside of maybe your church outlet, but unless someone has really experienced a loss, how can they really connect you and guide you with your own healing? So I think there were a lot of brokenhearted people for a very long time that never got any assistance and never recovered from that. And so that's where I think that comes from.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know, let me ask you this. Do you still hear that statement to this day, even though people know that you're a certified grief recovery specialist?
All the time. I hear it all the time, and I see it on other media outlets for grief. People write it a lot of the women that I have worked with, sometimes I see it on their social media where they'll post these little grief poster boards of, just talking about how sad they feel. And it's always in there, like, you'll never recover from the loss of a child. And it makes me sad because if you don't get help, you won't recover. But if you really take the time and seek some help and start talking, opening up and sharing, it is possible to recover.
And I hear you saying the word recover. So you've removed the word get over and you're replacing it with recover. Is that important?
Absolutely. Because I think for me personally, what recovery means is the soul-crushing sadness that it's almost like, I described it the other day with a client, it's almost like a backpack full of rocks. I mean, because that's what it feels like. You feel physically weighted with just this numbing, debilitating sadness. It's hard to concentrate. It's hard to just function. And recovery is like, for me, just taking that sadness, taking that out of the equation, and I have the memories of my boys. I talk about them all the time. They were two unique individuals. And so being able to share stories with them without feeling like I'm going to have a breakdown or I'm going to, just begin to sob. I mean, I can talk about them all day long with a smile on my face and nothing but love in my heart.
Right.
So for me, that's what being recovered means,
Let me ask you a question. In your recovery, and I honestly don't know the answer to this, are there times where you still cry? Where you still feel any of the pain?
I think, like we know in grief, as being certified grief recovery specialist, there's always the loss of the hopes, dreams, and expectations.
Yeah.
So the things like where at the stage I'm at right now in my life, a lot of my high school friends are becoming grandparents for the first time, which is something, it's not going to be available to me. I won't see the boys get married. I won't see them in their careers and thriving as young, healthy, productive citizens. I won't see that. So I think for sure that there are those things. Like when I go to weddings, I do kind of get that little sadness, or, when I see pictures of grandbabies. Of course. I mean, being recovered and finding help doesn't mean you'll never feel sad again. It just means you don't carry that on a daily basis with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember it was a few years, it was like a year after Donovan died, you went to your first wedding. And that was... Oh, my gosh. You realized, oh, my gosh, I'm never going to see him get married. And you called me after that, and we had a long conversation. I remember that happening.
It wasn't a year. It was a few months after he passed, and I spent the entire ceremony in the bathroom sobbing. So, yes, I remember that vividly.
Now, the two processes for you, getting recovered with Austin and getting recovered with Donovan, were two totally separate experiences, weren't they?
Absolutely, completely different. Because they were two different children. Even though I was their mom to both of them, they were two completely separate personalities. So it was like the loss was different. And Austin passed away at 10, so he was still, elementary school, and Donovan passed away as a young adult. So he and I had way more time and had developed more of a friendship. It was our relationship was moving out of the mom-son, but into like the mom-friend kind of area. Right. So they were totally different experiences.
And you and I talk about this all the time. Like, it's almost too much for people to understand, to just say, I've lost two boys at separate times. It's like even people gasp sometimes when you're telling them the story. How is your response when you're telling your own story? Because I'm the aunt telling the story. You and I live in two different states. How is it when you have to tell the story to other people?
It's so awkward, I'm not going to lie. Because I am a caretaker in general. By nature, I just feel like I want to, help people and take care of them. I feel like I am just dropping a load of bricks on them, and I feel so bad because, it's shocking to hear that, and initially, when I start telling my story and I start with Austin and people are like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine, how you healed from that. And then I haven't even gotten to Donovan yet. And then I feel so bad because I'm like, oh God, hold on. This is gonna sting. So it's totally awkward for me because it's like the reactions that they do give, because that is honestly, it's a parent's worst nightmare. When you become a new mom, that is your worst nightmare, is to think of the thought of losing your child.
Yeah.
And the fact that I have buried 2 children is just, sometimes it's too much for people to kind of comprehend at one time.
Right. And I have to share, and I share this quite often when I have clients that have been through grief recovery. A lot of times we're laughing and we're joking, and I know there are grievers listening to the show, and I want to just reiterate this, that recovery means to feel better. Recovery means that joy does return to your life, and that's where sometimes you're able to laugh and live again. And is that true, Erica? Do you find that?
I definitely see that. I notice that when I meet someone and we have our first informational meeting, and like I said, it's like you could see the sadness. You could see the way they're sitting. They're slouching. It's like the weight of the grief is so uncomfortable. And by week 4, there's like a physical transformation that people go through, and I could see the smile comes a little more readily and the laughter comes a little more. And then by week 8, it's like they've been rejuvenated and it's like a whole new person. And I think the most important thing for grievers to understand is especially when you're new, the situation has just occurred, whatever it is, divorce, breakup, or the death, minute by minute you change. 1 minute you could wake up and you can kind of go, okay, I could do this. I'm going to get through this day. And then you get in your car and you hear a song that reminds you of whatever the situation or the person, and you're stopping, from 1 minute to the next. And it's so hard to believe that transition can happen so fast, but it absolutely can, because your heart is so vulnerable and the loss is so fresh. So it's so hard to kind of govern what your mood is going to be like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about you and Lewis, my brother-in-law, Lewis. You guys both grieve the loss of your boys, but you experienced it differently. What is it like for a couple? What was it like for you? Let's start with Austin. So we find out Austin is dead. He's drowned at the lake, and you guys are both experiencing it differently. How was that initial?
Completely different.
How was that initial response?
I think because it was such a shock, the loss was such a shock, we were both numb for an extended period of time. We were both just in disbelief that this had occurred to us. I think in not just us as a couple, but as a family, we all were kind of devastated when this happened. But I think because he was there, and he was there when Austin drowned. I was not. I think that also was another factor that affected us differently. I feel as though I was spared because I did not have to go through what they went through with the divers and all that. I can only imagine how traumatic that was for everyone who was there. And I think that really kind of made Lewis decide he was going to try and outrun his grief and avoid it at all costs. So he started to work a lot later. He started to travel a lot more. He just kind of, that keep busy, myth of, the busier you are, then, you won't feel the pain. And that was his way. For me, it was harder because I wasn't able to outrun. Donovan was 12 and Jordan was 3. And I just was trying to figure out, how can I make this normal? How can I get back to where first and foremost, that the kids were okay? Because I wasn't even thinking about my grief at the time. And I think maybe that's what kind of helped me get through initially, is because my focus then became on my surviving children.
Right. I think I still attribute that moment when they got back from the lake, that Uncle Lou, we call him all Uncle Lou, guys. He's well known for that name. Uncle Lou, his attitude, he set the tone for us as a family. He set the tone for us in our recovery. He came back and he's like, no one is wearing black to the funeral. We're all wearing bright colors. He talked about Austin. We all talked about Austin from day one when he died. And I believe he really set the tone for what ended up happening to us ultimately as a family. And every moment when I think about that, and I even wrote about that in my book, he set the tone for that. And that's where we became closer and tighter, and we all moved around together as a group. Do you agree?
Oh, wholeheartedly, completely. I mean, I think that was one of the things that was most important to him, was making sure that Austin was celebrated, because he was such a crazy little kid, you know, and who had such a big life, even for his short 10 years. He lived a full, big life, and the only way to honor him was to celebrate him and everything that he brought to us in those 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you two as a couple? We hear a lot of times that because couples are grieving differently, that it can cause a lot of rift in their marriage and the separation. You're not grieving enough. You should be grieving more. Was there a lot of that going on? That's actually, I wouldn't have been exposed to that.
No, honestly, there wasn't a lot of that. I think it was just, we already know that we're two different people. I'm very expressive, and he is the opposite of that. So
really?
Anything that has to do with emotions, he wants no part of it, and that had been the way from when we were newly married. So I didn't expect that he was going to grieve the way that I did, and I don't think he expected that I would do his way. But I do see, though, that is very common with couples. I got to say, I think almost every mom I have met to date that has lost a child, they're also divorced. The husband and they did not make it through the loss. And I find that so shocking because, you know, when we lost Austin, of course, you know, we were totally devastated and, you know, shocked, but we knew we needed to be together, like all of us. Like you said, the family, we all were together. And then when we lost Donovan, he was the one I turned to because I knew that he was the only person that felt as bad as I did, or at least that's what I was thinking. Like, he knew how horrible I felt. And so he was the only person I wanted to talk to, really. And I find that when I'm working with moms, that it's the opposite. There's a lot of blaming. There's a lot of anger, resentment, and it drives a wedge in between the couple, which I find so sad because, you know, they really need to hold each other up and allow each one to have their own experience. Now, when it comes to when one person is choosing not to deal with it, then of course that is extremely problematic because, you know, you have to manage it in order to make it to the other side and to still have a good quality of life.
Erica, we are going to take a quick break,
yes.
But I want to pick up right here. Do not forget where we are. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Join us back here, guys, after the break.
Lots of people can build websites, but there's one Santa Clarita company that specializes in designing websites for your business. Small Dog Creative. The Small Dog Creative team is made up of local designers who are hands-on. Their talented team of experts build premium websites and redefine branding. Small Dog Creative doesn't just build websites. They'll upgrade your business's online presence and turn your business into a powerful online brand. Small Dog Creative, Santa Clarita's most innovative web and design company. SmallDogCreative.com.
Award-winning Justin Moore performing at the Antelope Valley Fairgrounds Wednesday, August 22nd.
You look like I need a drink right now.
Justin Moore. Tickets on sale now at avfair.com. A Night with Justin Moore, August 22nd. Brought to you by the Palmdale Auto Mall.
In small town, USA.
Get your Justin Moore tickets now at avfair.com.
Aloha, friends. Go check out Honu Coffee, home of the best cold brew coffee. What makes their coffee special is how their organic coffee beans are infused with nitrogen to create a smooth and delicious cup of coffee. You'll also find traditional bold coffees and island-inspired signature drinks. They're the perfect place to catch up with friends or just relax with your favorite cup of joe. Honu Coffee on Lyons and Walnut in Newhall. Stop by and say aloha.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back, Santa Clarita. Thank you so much for joining me here. You are at KHTS, your hometown station. I'm Sharon Brubaker, Advanced Certified Grief Recovery Specialist, and you are listening to the Grief Recovery Hour. But most importantly, you are listening to an amazing show. My guest today is Erica Honore. She is calling in from Howell, Texas. She's the mother of 2 boys that passed away, Austin Tyler in 2006 and Donovan Blake. I keep wanting to say Donovan Patton. Donovan Blake, 2015. And we're talking about how people say you never get over the loss of a child. But before the break, Erica, we were talking about how you and your husband, Louis, real quick, everyone, Erica is my sister and Louis is my brother-in-law. You and Uncle Lou both experienced it differently. And one of the things that I said prior to the break was that the thing that I thought was so amazing was that Uncle Lou set the tone, and that immediately when returning from the lake after Austin died, he started talking about Austin, and he wanted us celebrating Austin, which was so important. And I brought that up, my friends, because I want to let you know that there's a myth out there about not speaking ill will of the dead. But I think we all were like frozen and waiting for Louis to walk in the door. And when Louis started to talk about him, it was an amazing experience. That's all I can share. But we were talking about the difference between the husband and wives and how they grieve. And you just shared about how it was for Austin. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how it was for Donovan? You left off saying that when Donovan died, you really clung to your husband because you felt that he was the only one that truly understood what you were going through.
Exactly. That was exactly it. I just, having the unfortunate experience of having to bury a second child, I just knew that he was the only person I wanted to talk to because he felt as bad as I did. And I just wanted to be around him. And we were very aware of each other where we moved throughout the house during those times. I mean, it's like we constantly were checking in to make sure each one was okay. And I mean, we had our breakdowns at different moments, and it really, I mean, just like in marriage, when you have a balance, it's like when he would be down, I would be able to, help him through it. And then when I would be down, he was there to help me through it. So we actually, I mean, we're very, very lucky that we had one another and that we understood how to give each other what we needed when we needed it.
Right. I remember at one point, I don't even know if he's ever shared this, I kept seeing him being there for you, but I wasn't seeing him break down at all. And so I came to him and I said, hey, I just want to say something. I see you being strong for Erica, but are you having your moments? And he was like, yeah, T. Sharon, I'm having mine. Don't worry. She's got me. I was like, okay. Because I just want, we experienced the second death of Donovan. Well, we experienced the death of Donovan so differently because you and I had the tools.
Right.
And because we had these tools, it also didn't mean that the pain didn't come. It didn't mean that the numbness wasn't there. We still experienced the grief at 100%, but we knew what direction to go in.
I mean, even having the tools, with both of us being certified, I was angry. I didn't want to use the tools. I was mad. I was mad at the world. I was mad at everything. So I didn't initially, right off, want to use the tools. I was so overcome by grief and pain that I resisted the tools for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That it was almost like you were mad at even just the tools. At having
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. Yeah. And so I just stood on the outside and waited for you, and I followed your lead, and you let me know what you needed. And it ended up being great in the sense of that we had these things that we could do, and then I could be there for you. But it took a lot longer the second time.
It did. It took, I mean, I think we were right at Donovan's 1-year anniversary when I finally realized if I didn't do something, I was going to go down a very dark hole, and I knew it was going to be hard for me to get myself back. And I think it was actually Louis. He said to me, I need you. And he said, you cannot lose it. Like, I need you to kind of do whatever you need to do to get yourself back together. And that's kind of what motivated me to put the tools to use, because I wasn't any good to anyone.
Yeah, there's a fly in here. Ugh. Okay, sorry. So I have a question for you. I have a client question, and she sent it in. She said, it's been almost 8 months since my son died, and his rooms and clothing still smell like him. And it's hard for me to go in there and let go of his belongings. When did you start letting go of your things? How did you handle breaking that down, going into the room? Did you keep the room like that? What did you do? What was that like for you? And let's start with Austin first. What was it like for Austin?
So for Austin, it was impossible for me to enshrine the room because he shared it with his brothers. And I knew that wasn't going to be fair to them to, like, don't touch this, don't move that. So it was like I had to let go of that relatively quickly. However, when it came to his clothes, I remember someone had shared something with me about their experience when they lost their brother, that her mom had said if she got rid of his stuff, it was almost as if he would never have existed. And at the time, it, like, scared me. So I didn't want that to happen to me. So I was so adamant I wasn't going to get rid of any of his clothes. Like no matter whatever else got broken or moved or whatever, his clothes were staying in the drawer. They were not to be moved. And I was cramming the other boy's clothes on top of his clothes. I could hardly close the drawers. But it's just, I don't know, for whatever reason, that scared me because I didn't want it to be to a point where, thinking about it now, it was very rational, but like he wouldn't have existed, which I don't know how I could have, you cannot erase that child. No one can, from memory or anything else. But so in that, for Austin, it took me 3 years before I cleaned out those drawers.
And you had to be ready for that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Because when I finally committed to doing it, it wasn't traumatic. There were no extra tears. There were smiles when I remembered, certain shirts and certain favorites. And, of course, I kept, some of his favorites. I kept, his repeats that he loved, like his Dukes of Hazzard T-shirt for sure was a saving one. And then the rest I was able to give away with a good heart, hoping that another little boy found them and was able to enjoy them as much as he did.
Right. And were you and Lewis on the same page with that, with the cleaning out of the room, or was that just something you did yourself?
It's just something I did myself. He actually, I think he was around in the house when I did it, so he saw all the clothes, and I think we shared, a lot of memories when I would say, oh, look at this, and, so I remember him being there, but he wasn't, like, actually helping me or anything. It was something I did on my own.
And then what about for Donovan?
For Donovan, it was totally a different experience. It happened a lot faster, and Donovan didn't live here. He lived with a roommate. So we went over just for the sake of, making sure that things didn't get taken or anything. We, went over there and kind of grabbed up everything really quick. And then the family was here. So we kind of just started giving things away because I think with Donovan, he was such a special kid. I mean, we all just, enjoyed him. And so I knew the hurt was profound for everyone. And so I wanted kind of to give a little piece of him to kind of help comfort. So I think we went through the process a lot faster. I mean, it was actually that same week, I think, of his service. And I parted with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So the experiences were totally different.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I got a belt buckle and I got a shirt that Austin wore to Easter 2 years in a row. And I remember I picked the shirt up and I smelled it, and you looked at me and you go, yeah, Austin doesn't have a smell. And we just looked at each other. It was kind of cute. Another question. It says, Sharon, I'm not doing well reconnecting with my other children after the loss of my son. Was that an experience that you had? And what advice would you have for her?
The only advice I would give is to just recognize that everyone is broken. everyone. You're broken. Your kids are broken. Your spouse is going to be broken. So to just acknowledge that and know that sometimes the connection is not so much because the lack of effort, but it's just almost like they're unable to because they're so broken.
Right.
So until there's some healing done, that connection is going to, I think, be damaged until the healing starts.
And wouldn't you agree, Erica, that when she would to do her grief work and do the inventory of her heart, she may see some actual fears that are in there, that she's trying to protect herself from any other pains that may occur in her life. And some of this stuff may actually even be coming up from other areas in her life, and she can find those by herself when she's actually doing her heart work and going into her heart and looking at that.
Absolutely. You need to start with yourself, because if you don't heal yourself, it's almost like when you're on the airplane and they say for the parents to put the mask on themselves first before you assist your children. You have to take care of yourself and your heart and your healing, so then you can help them with their healing and their hearts.
Yeah, completely. Here's another question. Sharon, my son is 3 years old. Should I take him to his sister's funeral? My husband said we should. I don't want to because I think he's too young. Did you have an experience like this, and what is your thought on this?
I totally had that. Jordan was 3 years old when Austin passed away, and I made the decision not to have him go to Austin's funeral. He was around doing all the family stuff that when everyone came to the house and they were bringing food, and I could just see he didn't know what was happening. So I just knew the day of the funeral there were going to be a lot of tears, a lot of people breaking down, and I knew that at 3 he wasn't ready to process that, and so I just chose not to have him come to the actual funeral mass. But after he came to the after services, where there was a luncheon, and then people were a little more calm, and so he still took part in the day, just not in the actual funeral mass. And I just felt like, for me personally, I just didn't want him to not understand why everyone was crying. That was all I kept picturing, was everyone crying and him not understanding what was happening. That was the choice I made.
Do you ever regret that decision?
Nope, not one bit.
Awesome. And then let me ask you a question. What age could you put an age where you think a child should go to a funeral, or is it in an individual case?
I would absolutely think it's an individual case. Some kids are way more mature at 5 than others. So, I mean, I think it's a parent's personal choice. But, unfortunately, grief is a part of life. Death
Right.
is a part. We already know that, our days are numbered. So you can't shield them from all loss. And the sooner you start the dialogue with them to help them understand and to help them process, the better. Because then they will be growing into well-rounded individuals that have the language and have the ability to express themselves as situations happen to them.
Exactly. Let me ask you a question. So I'm going to shift. We've been talking about the deaths of your boys, how you and your husband handled it, your children handling it. But I want to go into something a little bit different. I want to talk about, because people say you will never get over it, and you and I use the word recovery. You absolutely can recover. I believe for myself, and I don't know about you, how you describe it, I believe I have a spiritual relationship with Austin and Donovan. I feel like they're still in my lives. They're still part of me. I can talk about them. I can share about them. Explain a little bit what recovery feels like for you and what it's like with those boys and just your daily life. If you can let some of our friends hear that and hear what it's like for you, living with the loss of the children.
Now what it's like?
Yeah.
Well, now, I mean, it's totally different from where I started. I feel like I'm a completely different person. Now I don't feel broken. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm a whole. Because initially, to say that you're heartbroken, I think it doesn't even capture it. It's almost like I said earlier, soul crushing. I mean, it's just like there's this vacancy in your soul. So now I don't feel that. I feel I can talk about them to whoever. I can go to different places. I can go to weddings, and I don't have to spend the whole ceremony in the restroom.
Where'd Erica go?
I'm still living a full quality life. There's a lot of life. I know I have a lot of life left to live. And Jordan is 15 now, and he and I, oh gosh, he reminds me so much of his brothers.
Yeah.
Especially now, he's so much like Donovan, and the things that he says, it's almost like deja vu. I can feel like I had that conversation before with Donovan. So it's like I get to relive that with him and through him, and help him with his process, because he is actually in a lot better place than he was. He was angry for a long time and just confused, and just he struggled for a long time, and now he's also healing and working through it as best he can.
Right. And you were able to help him with that, so it's sort of like you did put your mask on first, and then you helped him with his. And you guys are living as a family. You guys have adopted a daughter, so you have a 19-year-old.
Yes, Kayla's 19. She's turning 20 in September. She is a relative of ours that we got involved with her when she was 13, and Donovan was still with us, and he was very much a big brother to her, and they had a great sibling relationship. And we moved to Texas. She chose to stay back in California until Donovan's accident. Then she came for his services, and she's been here ever since. So she is now going on her third year here in Texas, and she is thriving. She's in college, and she's working and just, loving being a little young adult. And same thing with her, though. I see where the stage where she's at was right when Donovan moved to Texas. He was 19, turning 20. And so I can see a lot of him in her as well, in her thought process and the way she handles things, or lack of handling of things.
Right.
But I'm very much reminded of him on a daily basis.
Right. So basically what you're sharing with us is that you and Lewis together have recovered. You've rebuilt your family. You guys have this amazing family. Your life is not perfect. You still have day-to-day struggles. You told me today when I called you had to go to the grocery store, so you still have all those things to do. You're still paying bills and all that, but you're not living in pain, in fear, numb, crying. Correct?
Correct. I'm sleeping because the horrible insomnia that comes with grief is almost as debilitating as like when you have an infant in the home. It's like that lack of sleep.
Right.
It's so extremely destructive to your life. I mean, with every intent, I would go to bed saying, okay, I got to get some sleep. And then within an hour or two of falling asleep, I would be up. And not just me, because I would wake up just laying there silent, feeling just my heartbreak and my pain. And then I could hear that Lewis wasn't sleeping, because we both kind of snore. So it's like he was quiet, and I would say to him, "Are you up?" And he'd say, "Yep." And we both just sit there and just try to give each other comfort as best we could. And then next thing you know, it's daybreak, and we've gotten zero sleep, and that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was, it's like you almost need sleep. You're begging for it, but you don't want to become dependent on taking any type of medication or anything like that. So it's like, there's a fine line with stuff like that, because then you don't want to wake up and you can't function because of the medicine you got to take to go to sleep. It's a horrible, vicious cycle. So, I mean, just to not have that as a factor in our lives anymore is such a blessing, because you can think clearer, you can, have conversation, and you can function throughout the day when you're well rested.
Wow, what an amazing show today. Erica, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want you to give your advice to all of the mothers out there that are grieving not only the loss of their children, but maybe the divorce or breakup of a romantic relationship, or maybe they're just having trouble with their teens, and it's so heartbreaking. So we're going to come back, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about what amazing things you're doing in Texas. Okay, guys, remember, join us right back here after the break.
Did you know that SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in our community? That means that students at Santa Clarita Valley International Public Charter School can participate in very rigorous classes run by highly trained and skilled international teachers. They work with kids to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners. Students with IB diplomas at select colleges can graduate with a full year credit at their university. Schedule a tour today online at scvi-k12.org or by calling 705-4820.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
Hi, Kirk Stinson here with Plumbing by Kirk, your hometown plumber. I want to stress to you how important it is to get proper advice on what to do in case of emergencies. Always know where your shutoff valves are to be able to isolate it and have the problem taken care of on regular hours and avoid expensive plumbing bill.
We invite you to visit our website for free plumbing advice at plumbingbykirk.com or give us a call, 263-6519. That's 263-6519.
My dad is the best plumber ever. Plumbing by Kirk.
There's only one Santa Clarita plastic surgeon who is Yale trained and board certified, Dr. Justin Heller.
To be a board certified plastic surgeon like myself, what that truly entails is about 5 to 7 years of honed surgical training in reconstructive, all areas, as well as aesthetic, so which means your facelifts, your breast augmentations, your body contouring, true training, and board certification. In fact, that's the only board certified area that can be achieved in this realm.
Dr. Justin Heller, warm, understanding, always available for guidance because he's local. HellerPlasticSurgery.com.
Hometown.
I wanted to let you know that I really appreciate the way you guys do what you do.
Your hometown station.
Welcome back, friends. You are listening right here to KHTS, your hometown station. I'm Sharon Brubaker, and this is the Grief Recovery Hour, and I am an advanced certified grief recovery specialist. I have on the show, calling in from Texas, one of my favorite guests of all times, my little sister, Erica Honore, certified grief recovery specialist as well, mother of 4, and the mother of 2 boys who passed away, Austin Tyler in 2006 and Donovan Patton in 2015. We left the show. We've had an amazing show, but we're going to open back up with any advice that you can give. I'm specifically speaking to the women out there, women with broken hearts, anyone who has maybe lost a child or going through a tough time right now. What would be the one thing that you would say to her that could help her through this moment, especially if it's the initial part of the heartbreak?
I would have to say, I think there's some misinformation out there that people feel like you have to wait like a certain period of time before seeking help. And I would just say to don't wait. The longer you wait, the more you're going to be burdened with the pain and the sadness. So find help wherever you need to as soon as you can.
Absolutely, absolutely. I also agree that talking about it, it helps to at least relieve the pressure. Sometimes we want to push it down so deep in our heart and we just don't want to talk about it. But if we can find a safe place to have someone to talk to and share with, like you had Lewis, your husband, which was amazing. But we, even as family members, we all needed to talk about it. And we talked about it together. And that helps to relieve the pressure. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think that's also something that society thinks that, you know, if you don't talk about it, then you won't feel the pain, which is completely wrong. You're going to feel the pain regardless. One of the things I share with my clients is grief will find a way.
Yeah.
So you can think that you're not going to deal with it and you're going to, you know, find a different outlet or whatever, but grief will find you. It's going to manifest itself physically in your body. It's going to be insomnia, the lack of concentration. These things are going to affect you. And the longer you hold off on talking and sharing how you're feeling, the longer you'll be affected.
And, you know, just touching on that real quick, if we don't take care of this grief, it sort of becomes like a possession to us, like a prized possession almost. I can remember by the time you and I got to grief recovery, I almost didn't want to do the work. And I remember telling our instructor, if I do my work and I complete my relationship with Austin, I'm not going to have this pain anymore. And if I don't have this pain, then I won't have him. I really believe that had a lot to do with the fact that I had held on to it for so long. Do you have it? Can you elaborate on that at all?
Well, I think that, I didn't feel that way. I felt the opposite. I was like, take it, do something with it, just get it out of me. Like, that's how I felt. I was like running to have help and get rid of that pain. But I know that when I've spoken with people and who have experienced different losses at different times, that is their connection to their relationship with their loved one. And so it is the thought of when, I say you can recover and you can heal from this loss. They don't want that because they think that they're going to be leaving that person behind or losing the memories of that person. But that's not what happens. You keep all the love, all the memories, all the good times, and you're letting go of that debilitating sadness that's preventing you from living your best life.
That is so amazing. So Erica and I have completed our first book. She was a contributor on the first book, and we are in the process of doing our second book right now, soon to be released by the end of this year, called Healing Starts with the Heart, which is amazing. But other than the book, Erica, tell us some of the great things that you're doing to help grievers in your hometown and Howell, Texas.
Well, currently I am running full grief groups as well as meeting one-on-one with clients to help heal hearts, because it's truly become a passion. It's kind of weird to say that because people go, when I share that I'm a grief recovery specialist, they kind of don't want to talk to me anymore. But
you have no friends, is that what you're saying?
Basically.
I feel the same way sometimes.
But it is an amazing experience, like I shared earlier, to watch the physical transformation that occurs when someone they begin to feel better and they're not overwhelmed with the sadness that brought them to me in the first place. And like I said, it's usually around week 4, and I notice they're sitting up a little straighter and they're smiling a little more and they're wanting to talk a little bit more. And each week it just gets better and better until the end.
And it's kind of crazy. My experience is that is the exact thing that happens. The second part of it is that they don't even realize it for themselves. I see it because that scroll pain on their face starts to look a little softer. So I see it, and they may even walk in and tell a joke, but they don't feel it yet because they're still feeling the pain. But absolutely. So you don't just work with people that have lost their children. You work with all kinds of grievers. Is that correct?
Correct. I work with all. There's, like you mentioned earlier, there's over 40 losses that can affect someone. And, sometimes what I've described to when I'm meeting with people and doing my open houses is, they don't know why they've come to the meeting because they haven't experienced a loss per se or, a recent loss. But there's like a lack in their quality of life. Like they're just, something is holding them back and they don't quite know what it is. And those people also, I'm like, this group, this program is absolutely for you, because what you're going to do is just jumpstart your heart. You're going to clear out all that old gook that you've been carrying around that, like you said, you're not even aware of at this point because it's become so familiar to you. It just feels normal. But once you start working on it and start chipping away, you realize how free and liberating it is to have, like I said, a jump start on your heart.
And it's so rewarding for me, and I'm sure it is for you, to say that I was able to guide somebody through that. You and I needed a guide when our grief happened. And to have a guide us through and now be the guide for other people is such an amazing and rewarding career. It really is. It really is true. Life-changing. I can't even imagine myself doing anything else.
Right.
Yeah. So how can people find you and how?
People can find me. My phone number is area code 818-974-1124. I'm still committed to that California number. I can't give it up just yet. And I am on my email. It's my first and last name, Erica Honore. It's ERICAHONORE GR method @gmail.com.
Awesome. So, guys, reach out to Erica. I'm going to put her information in the Facebook down in the comment section so everybody will have her information. Erica, I just want to say to you, as your older sister, that I love you. I'm so glad that we got picked to do this journey together. One, being there for each other when the boys passed away, holding on tightly to each other, but also that we can make a difference in the world today, that we literally are changing the world one heart at a time. We're getting the word out that you can recover from grief. The pain in your heart will be gone, and we're here for you if you need help. If you have any questions, reach out to us. But most importantly, I want to really just thank you for giving me the courage and the energy that I need every day to keep this going. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I love you too. And I would not be in this business had you not tricked me into going to that very first grief recovery class, which I am so thankful for. Because like you said, this is, although we came to it with unfortunate circumstances, we are able to help and guide others. And the ability to be there when someone is hurting and to see them through this process are not enough words to say how amazing that experience is.
Okay, you have to make me one promise. Will you come back again, even if we have to call you in?
For sure.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you here on the radio next week.
KHTS, AM 1220 and 98.1 FM Santa Clarita. It's 2 o'clock. Time for national news on KHTS.
Trump answers Cohen. Hawaii braces for Lane. I'm Evan Hanning. President Trump is disputing his former attorney Michael Cohen's guilty plea that Cohen knowingly violated federal campaign finance law at Donald Trump's direction. The president tells Fox News he only knew about Cohen's hush money payments to two women who alleged they'd had affairs with Trump later on. And Trump says the funds did not come from campaign money.
They came from me, and I tweeted about it. I don't know if you know, but I tweeted about the payments, but they didn't come out of campaign. In fact, my first question when I heard about it was, did they come out of the campaign? Because that could be a little dicey.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked if Trump was worried about Cohen's guilty plea and the jury's conviction of former campaign chairman Paul Manafort on tax and bank fraud charges.
I don't think the president's concerned at all. He knows that he did nothing wrong.
The man accused of killing Iowa College student Molly Tibbetts made his first court appearance today. Christian Rivera will remain in custody for now under terms set by Magistrate Diane Crookham Johnson.
Mr. Rivera, the following terms of release from jail are ordered. Bond in the amount of $5 million, cash only, in the name of the defendant only, and only after approval for pretrial release by the Department of Corrections.
His attorney says Rivera, who is in the U.S. illegally, has no prior criminal history. Well, a Category 4 storm, Hurricane Lane, is barreling toward Hawaii. Vice President Mike Pence says Hawaiians